What is up, guys? This is Pinzo back with another video today, and what I have for you guys is some patch notes. We got the patch notes for the Quang patch. This is the patch that will go live on Tuesday, January 16th. So, the Tuesday after you guys see this video. So, we're going to go over the patch notes. I'm just going to make sure that everything's clarified. I know that the patch notes are actually written properly this time. I will say the formatting is much, much better. So, big plus on that. But I will go through and explain some stuff, give you guys my thoughts, all that kind of stuff. We're going to jump right into it. So, this is the first patch of 2024. It is the last content patch. Well, it's the second to last content patch of Season 3, whatever Season 3 actually means. We don't know yet. But the next one in 6 weeks will be the original hero from Omida. So, this one, we get Quang. And Quang's abilities are kind of cool. They did not release like a ability overview trailer yet. I don't know if that's something they're planning on doing. We maybe get that Monday, but we do have his abilities out here. He's basically has the Paragon kit, so I'm just going to kind of briefly go over this. His passive is after you use an ability, you get 3 charges. Your next 3 auto attacks that hit, your next 3 autos that hit something do bonus damage. If they hit an enemy hero with those charged basics, it reduces your cooldowns by half a second. So he's going to be an ability spammer. You're going to ability, auto, ability, auto, and you're always going to have abilities up. His Q is his sword throw. It's exactly what it was in Paragon. It doesn't say whether or not it stays out indefinitely. I hope it doesn't. Personally, I would not like to see the sword be able to stay out indefinitely. I would rather it have a time period. Just mostly because of the way it interacts with the rest of his abilities, not even just his ultimate. His E is a dash. So he dashes forward. We don't know how far this is, but he dashes forward and does damage to anything he passes through. And if he dashes into his sword on the ground, he will knock everybody up around it. Kind of cool. His RMB is lightning strikes his sword. If he's holding it, he gains a shield. If it is out in the world, it does true damage. Just a fairly standard damage ability. And you will notice, if you guys are looking at this, these are really low damage numbers on all of his abilities. The damage numbers are very low. However, keep in mind he has low base cooldowns, and his passive reduces his cooldowns. So even though the damage numbers are low, he will be using a lot of abilities in a fight. It'll kind of be like a Sevarog Q thing, where Sevarog's Q only hits for like 200 damage, but you get to use it so often that the damage it puts out is pretty big. His ultimate is the same as it was before. You either teleport to the sword if it's out in the world, or you just spin around yourself. You do damage, and you slow people. Pretty standard Quang kit. I think it's interesting. My only gripe with his kit is his passive being another auto attack passive. I just think it's a little bit boring, in my opinion. So many characters in this game have passives that are just when you auto something, do X, and I think that's really boring. So hopefully the next hero doesn't have one of those, but other than that, I like the rest of his kit. We get a couple new skins. Quang gets a recolor, Faye gets another skin. This skin, it looks kind of cool right here. I got to see it in game before I have judgment. Richter gets a diesel skin. This is probably Richter's best skin. Winterfest, blah, 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 blah. PlayStation ends December 29th, I believe. Controller stuff. I don't know what any of this means, to be honest. I don't play controller. Crunch. They finally fixed the Crunch Dash bug. So Crunch Dash would just stay like infinitely active for some reason. And you could hit minions with it. It was kind of super annoying. It was really good if you're a Crunch player. It was really annoying if you're playing against Crunch. Finally fixed that. That's been like 3 months or so until they fixed this. Really nice. How he gets some changes. His Q gets a damage buff. His R, this is going to do very similar amounts of damage. I believe this is a net buff. This is like a 20 base damage and like a 2% scaling net buff, but it will take place over a longer duration. So how he ult currently shoots 12 rockets. It will now shoot 16. Each rocket individually will do less damage, but the full ultimate will do about the same. So this is just to make Howie, I don't even know exactly what this change is about. Just lessens his burst, makes his ult take more time. I don't know exactly why they're doing this, but I think this is a fine change. Kalari, base number changes, I don't really care. Her Q gets some changes, so the duration is going down by 1 second at all ranks. You will be able to be invisible less time of a match. but the health regen that you get is going up massively. So I think that overall, this is a buff to Kallari. I really do. I think especially Kallari solo is getting buffed by this. Kallari jungle, I don't know exactly how much you're going to notice this, but in the solo lane, this is actually a pretty big buff. Kira, her ult gets some base damage, and then you're going to see this a lot. Added on-hit modifier to descriptions. This is just a quality of life thing. There are a lot of abilities in this game that trigger on hits, but do not trigger them at 100% effectiveness. So if your tainted rounds would do 100 damage, on Kira ultimate, it will only do 30 because it applies on hits at 30% effectiveness. Honestly, I don't know why they do that. I think it's kind of weird, in my opinion. Just let the characters proc the items or don't let them proc the items. I don't know. Chimera, same thing. Morigesh gets some changes. She just gets some mana changes. Her Q will cost way less at all ranks now, and her E will cost a little bit more rank 1, but less late game. Just some mana economy changes. Rampage gets a couple of big changes here. I'm going to kind of summarize. You guys can pause and read this if you really want to, but I'm going to summarize for you. Rampage is getting changed. Excuse me, I just smacked my mic. Rampage is getting changed from being a rock bot, from only being useful by throwing his Q, into kind of trying to be more of a brawler. So the stun on the rock is going down, but the cooldown is also going down. So you're going to be able to throw it a little bit more often. It will do a little bit more damage late game, and it will cost a lot more mana. So this ability is going to be much worse early game, but maybe late game because of the cooldown changes, it'll still be okay. I'm not positive. His E gets... The damage change on this is really weird. And to be honest, I don't know exactly how accurately I could tell you what this will mean for Rampage, because the base damage is getting destroyed. The base damage is getting gutted, but it's going from 50% bonus physical power to 90% total physical power. So I think that overall, if you have like one damage item, this will definitely be a net buff in the damage department. As for if you're building full tank, if you're Fire Blossom starter into full defense, I don't know exactly how this damage number will work out. I can't tell you. The slow goes up, the slow duration goes down, but the cooldown now scales from 8 seconds to 6 seconds, which is really good. And his when you ult on Rampage, your E has half cooldown. Now it will have 40%. It will have 40% reduced cooldown instead of 50%. So this will be a 60% of the cooldown, if that makes sense. His ultimate gets some buffs as well. The duration increase is really big. It's going from 8 to 10 to 8 to 12. So 2 more seconds late game of Rampage ult is a lot. The healing is going down a little bit, but keep in mind you have 2 extra seconds of this. So, you know, that's still pretty good. And then he gets a little bit more base health when he ults. Overall, they are trying to make Rampage more of a bruiser and less of a, if I don't have rock, I'm useless kind of character, which is really the role that he fills right now. If you don't have rock on Rampage, like if your Q is on cooldown, you don't do anything. They're trying to cut back from that a little bit. To be honest, I don't know if this is going to be a buff or a nerf. Richter, some slight nerfs. Armor growth decreased, passive shield decreased. Sereth, quality of life. Twin Blast, same thing. Wraith gets some changes. So these ones matter. These are actually big changes to Wraith. So number 1, his Q gets magic damage added to it. Magic scaling added to it. So if you are building full magic damage Wraith, your Q, the initial hit of your Q, will do more damage. On top of that, it is getting a cooldown decrease late game. 2 seconds off the cooldown at rank 5. That's very big. Wraith having more potential for burst damage is very, very big. But the mark duration is going down, so you're going to have to be quicker on your combos. Overall, this is a huge buff to the Q. Huge buff to the Q. His E gets a slight nerf on the amount of penetration it gives. Honestly, the fact that this gives any penetration is kind of wild to me, but very cool. And then his right click, his snipe, is getting a base damage increase early game to make up for the fact that the bonus damage to minions is going from 75% to 40%. So your early game snipes on minions will not be as OP as they are right now. You're not going to insta-clear waves with this anymore. However, the mana refund on kill or hitting a marked target is going from 50% to 100%. So if you kill a minion with this, you will get the entire mana back for it, which is a huge buff. But to compensate for that, they are increasing the mana cost pretty drastically. This is going from flat 60 to 80, scaling to 100. It's a huge nerf to the mana, but if you are good at Wraith and you are landing your last hits on minions, then this will be a net buff for Wraith. The cooldown also goes down 2 seconds. That was unnecessary, but again, just a huge buff to Wraith in my opinion. His character is already, in my opinion, absolutely nuts, so the fact that they're buffing him, kind of scary. Item changes. Some of these are pretty easy. Obelisk, little less damage. Tranquility and Sanctification lose some heal and shield power. Dust Devil, the passive on this duration gets reduced, so your movement speed and power passive on this gets reduced. Resolution, this is the only big one in here. This is getting a rework. So Resolution will no longer deal dot damage based on your maximum mana. It will just deal bonus damage on hit based on your maximum mana. So every auto attack will deal 3% of your maximum mana in addition to the normal auto attack stuff. Its base stats get a slight change. That really doesn't matter. Mana restored on hit gets nerfed as well, which it should with this. I like this change. I think this is the correct way to take the item. My only issue with it is that they are once again just copying a League of Legends item, which similar to Quang. It's just kind of boring at this point. Like it seems like that's a lot of what they've done, and so I'm a little on the fence because I do think this is the right direction for the item, but at the same time, they have once again just copied a League item. So, call that however you like it. Infernum, mana increase, Berserker's Axe, 5 more haste, Bone Seeker, 5% attack speed, Caustica loses 5 power and gets a slightly worse build path, build components to it. Megacosm, this is another one that matters a decent amount. The Disintegrate, so the dot damage on this, is going down a little bit, but it is losing the burst damage passive to this. So what Megacosm currently does is that if you hit somebody, if you hit someone with an ability who is already burning from your Megacosm, it will do instant burst damage based on their maximum health. That is really good against tanks, obviously, but because it's burst damage, it's also really good against squishy targets. So what they are changing is they are taking away the burst damage passive, gone completely. And what they are doing is that the dot damage from Megacosm will now be incredibly more effective against targets who are building a lot of HP, who have a lot of bonus health in their build. So the dot damage deals additional damage to enemy heroes equal to 4% of their bonus health, which is crazy. That's a huge number, in my opinion. That seems like a really big number to me. We'll see if it's as OP as I think it is. I think you're still going to be building this against tanky teams. It will just be less effective against squishy targets. Tainted Totem, health decrease, very cool. Wellspring gets a healing decrease, but you're going to be able to get this passive back more often. So this actually might realistically be a net buff to Wellspring, in my opinion. At least on characters like FaZe and Muriel, where you're able to auto-attack in a fight. Someone like Narbash, who's not autoing a whole lot, maybe gets less use out of this. Unbroken Will, this one's wild to me. They nerfed Unbroken Will again. In my opinion, this is a nerf. They take a little bit of health off of it, add 10% tenacity. They completely remove health regen from this item, which is crazy because in my opinion, that was one of the few things keeping this item like afloat. And then they give you another half a second on the passive. So I'm going to take 20 seconds to explain why Unbroken Will is a terrible item right now. Number one, the passive, it gives you 30% extra armor. That's kind of good, but it only works on hard CCs, so immobilizes. So roots, stuns, knockups. Baseline is what is going to proc your Unbroken Will. The downside to this is that this is a tenacity item. So this item gives you tenacity. Tenacity is a stat that reduces the amount of time you are crowd controlled. So if you get hit by a 1 second stun, but you have a 30% tenacity, that stun will only last 0.7 seconds on you. It reduces the amount of time you are stunned. That has a cap at 60%. But the point of this is that if you are getting hard CC'd, most of the time in this game, tenacity will not help you. The majority of hard CCs in this game, more than half of the hard CCs in this game, are knockups, and knockups are unaffected by tenacity. So this item, while you do get the extra armor, and I think in very niche case scenarios, this item will still be buildable, it will feel terrible to build because the item is not good. There are just some games where you will need this. So in my opinion, they need to put the healing back onto this. That's the only thing that was keeping it afloat. Take off the bonus armor. Just give me the healing back. Anyway, other than that, there's not really any bug fixes in here that I thought were crazy. I looked vaguely through this. If there's some bug fix in here that I'm missing, just let me know. Other than that, that is the whole patch. So, quick thoughts on the patch, just because I want to throw this out there. Number one, I'm a little bit underwhelmed. I was really hoping for more in this patch, to be honest, because it has been 4 weeks since our last patch. The last patch was not 3 weeks ago because they moved the last patch up 1 week. So it was 4 weeks ago that was our last patch. So we've been playing the same patch for the last 4 weeks. And in my opinion, again, this is just my opinion. You can feel free to disagree with me. In my opinion, this patch is not big enough to have been cooking for 4 weeks. Obviously, they took vacation. It was Christmas time. They were not working. I understand that. From the perspective of someone who is playing a live service video game, I don't think this patch was big enough. I really would have liked to see more. But that, again, that's just me. That's just me. Other than that, I think most, outside of the Wraith changes, again, them buffing this character is wild to me. I really think he did not need any buffs. Outside of that, I think most of the changes in this patch are good. The Rampage changes, we'll have to wait and see. I just, literally, I cannot tell you how good those will be because I don't know. Other than that, I think most of the changes in this patch were good. Quang looks sweet. We'll have to see how he plays. Other than that, yeah, I think that's all I've got for you guys. So, jump into the patch. It drops on January the 16th. That is a Tuesday. And yeah, so be there for that. Other than that, guys, that's all I've got for you. So as always, I've been Pinzo. This video's donezo. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.